Okay, we are live. We're going to let it breathe just for a moment while we connect a few other social channels and get our MHH tribe under one tent here. Hang tight. And we are good. Welcome in, everybody. It is the Mile High Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me, my fellow partner in crime, football priest, and the deputy editor of milehighhuddle.com, Zack Kelberman. Zack, we were really excited. We got to get this out of the way right now. You guys might have noticed we had to change the thumbnail and stuff. At the 11th hour, literally like 20 minutes ago, we learned that TJ Ward, who was going to be on the show tonight, couldn't make it due to a family emergency, and it's being rescheduled for same day next week. So I see a few super chats, Zack, stacked up and stuff. Excited for TJ. Hate that happened. You know, what are you going to do? Family emergency, Zack. But this is the type of thing that happens literally every day, all day long in radio. And it's one of the reasons why Zack and I didn't find ourselves, we didn't like radio too much. But outside, hey, you know, force of nature, act of God, whatever you want to call it, we wish TJ the best, and we look forward to talking to him next week.
I want to quote you when I say charge it to the game. You know, these things happen, these things come up, and what are you going to do? But fortunately for us, Chad, we have plenty of Broncos topics to go over tonight. We haven't gotten a chance to talk about the 53, all the moves they've made. So it's going to be a fun episode regardless.
But listen, guys, real quick, amen. What Zack just said, we have so much to get to, but like Sam jumped in way early. We had 3 way early supers saying, hey guys, I hope all is well. 1 week till football. And welcoming TJ, of course. Nice to have an important member of the no-fly zone and the Super Bowl champ on the show. Won't be tonight, but it will be a week from tonight. So sorry about that, guys. Kind of outside our control. Hope you can understand that. But sounds like outside of TJ's control too. And he wants to make up for it. So it's all good. The Papa Bear too, real quick, Zack, and then we'll dive in. Saying good evening to everybody. 12 and 5 plus, all that good stuff. Love it, David. Hope everyone is doing good in your family, in your neck of the woods. Look, today, you and I, David, we're twinners, you see? So I hope all is well. Been keeping you in our thoughts and prayers with your family and what's been going on with you, big dog. So I hope you're doing okay. And Miguel, also, bro, save this. We'll put a pin in this as well. We'll hold on to it and make sure that this gets in front of TJ when he's on the show next week. So really appreciate that. Want to know about the matchups, looking forward to, and all that stuff. So put a pin in that. We will get back to it. But with that said, Zack, the Denver Broncos, today was like a day of threes. 3 players re-signed. 3 newer players officially hit the roster, technically the practice squad. And then 3 players land on IR. So let's start with first things first, the story you had for us today at milehighhuddle.com, the 3 players that were re-signed, and then the 3 players placed on short-term IR.
Yeah, I mean, this is all procedural. The Broncos made these moves a couple days ago with the intent of bringing them back. I want to pull up the article for clarity if I could. Mike Purcell, Fabian Moreau, and who am I forgetting? I wrote the article. I can't seem to pull it up right now. Hang on. Fabian Moreau, Mike Purcell, and who, Chad? Who am I missing?
Fabian Moreau that were re-signed. Mike Purcell and Quinn Bailey.
Quinn Bailey. That's why I never can remember, because I'm still surprised he's a part of the Broncos. He survived like 3 coaching regimes. But Sean Payton said he had a great camp, and he's going to be one of the backup tackles, a swing tackle behind McGlinchey and Garrett Bowles. The people who are placed on IR, K1 Williams, we knew about that already. He had ankle surgery recently. He'll be back, I think, around midseason, hopefully. PJ Locke has a leg injury he's dealt with throughout training camp. And Alex Palczewski. Did I nail that?
That's right. You got it, dude.
Got it. Finally. Yeah. It helps when you start spelling it a lot and you use like phonetic clues to decipher it. But yeah, the undrafted rookie tackle had a great training camp, great preseason. He had kind of a hand injury in the preseason finale, and he'll be on short-term IR. What this means for those 3, they cannot come back until 4 games have elapsed. So like Baron Browning, who's on PUP, they are not eligible to return until week 5. So they got some reinforcements, Chad, and they lost some players as well temporarily.
Indeed. That was news to me on Palczewski. I didn't realize he got dinged up, but you know, it does help that you re-sign Quinn Bailey to the roster, because even though he's kind of transitioned, Zack, as into being more of an interior guy, he can play tackle, and he has played tackle in live bullet action, regular season action for the Denver Broncos. So if, knock on wood, you got hurt in those first 4 weeks, either of your two starters got hurt, or God forbid, both of them got dinged up, you've got Cam Fleming still on the roster, Zach, and then you could have like your emergency tackle as Quinn Bailey. I doubt it will come to that. In fact, I'm sure it won't, but you never can be too sure.
No, I mean, look, Garrett Bowles broke his leg last year. McGlinchey had a knee problem in training camp. He's finally getting back to full health. I'm right there with you. God forbid, knock wood. Hopefully they stay healthy. But they needed someone like Palczewski, who's still very raw, Chad. He's very unrefined. He's far from the finished product. But the Broncos did, to have a young tackle that they can develop, a homegrown guy, a young guy in the pipeline. And under Sean Payton and Zach Strief, with their history, I think it's very encouraging for his progress.
Definitely. Albert, we're hearing, so this is good news. Before I got to set the stage on this a little bit, because Albert and his great wife, Michelle, have been to all of the MHH meet and greets. They travel long distances to be there. And he had reached out to us earlier this year, I don't know, not long after we first announced, saying, I don't think we're going to be able to make it this time, stuff going on in his neck of the woods. And we're now hearing from Albert, Michelle and I are going to try to be at the meet and greet. So this is good news. We hope to see you. We hope to see you, man. I don't know if it would be quite the same without the Knoppers, Zach.
It would not. I mean, they've been so gracious. They've made the meet and greet. It was already amazing because of y'all, but their hospitality and their generosity and how kind of people they are, genuinely two of the kindest folks I've ever come across in any walk of life. We would love to have you there, Albert and Michelle, as well. So hopefully we'll see you on October 22nd.
Amen to that. Mark McDonald, what's up, bro? Good to see you tonight, my friend. Thank you for the support. He's saying, good evening, fellas in Broncos country. I like the way the 53 is coming together. Still a little mad about Albert O. Zach, now that the dust has settled a little bit, a couple of days have passed. You've probably worked out your hormones. I have anyway on the Albert O issue. How are you feeling about the trade at the deadline? Basically, here, Philadelphia Eagles take Albert O, and a pick swap is what the Broncos got out of it. They moved basically from a 7th round pick to a 6th round pick in that year's draft. But what's your reaction now, a couple of days into this thing?
Well, at least they got something for him. It was reported at first that the Broncos were waiving Albert O and they were letting him walk for nothing. So at least they got a late round pick back. But this was a steal for Philadelphia. I mean, Albert O, I talked about unrefined and not a finished product. Albert O is just starting to realize his potential. It was happening in the last couple games of the preseason under a competent coaching staff, but obviously Sean Payton felt like Nate Adkins and Chris Manhertz, Adam Troutman, obviously Greg Dulcich were better options because they're better blockers. But I do wish Albert all of the best. I think that was a win for Philadelphia, and I hope that Nate Adkins can prove that he was the right man for the 53.
Yeah, it's sure being a lot made about old Nate Adkins for making the roster. And it's pretty cool, though, like Nate Adkins aside, whatever your thoughts were on Albert O, and as you guys know, I was disappointed. I felt like they're looking a gift horse in the mouth, especially in the wake, Zach, of the injuries to the receiving corps. Sorry, I'm just without Scott. We don't have Scott in the room tonight, so I'm trying to keep an eye on the Facebook stars to make sure the ones we see in our StreamYard studio are the ones that we think they are. But a lot being made about Nate Adkins. Great, cool, good for him. Cool story. 3 other undrafted rookies this year, Zach, making the Broncos 53-man roster out of camp. So that's 4 total, which is believed to be, according to the Broncos press release that they sent us, the most ever since about 97. So for the Broncos anyway. So pretty cool. Jaleel McLaughlin, Thomas Incoom. Who's the other one I'm missing? Palczewski. Yep. Who then immediately got put on IR. But there was a reason behind that. They wanted to be able to just only have to lose him for 4 games and not longer. But pretty cool to see the tradition. The Broncos have a rich undrafted rookie tradition, and that was definitely honored by this new coaching staff, like with aplomb.
Yeah, franchise record 4 UDFAs have cracked the Broncos 53, and some skeptical Broncos fans have taken it to mean that it's the sorry state of the roster. They needed players that badly, but the way I look at it is George Paton is one hell of a scout. Sean Payton is one hell of a scout. It's tough to have one undrafted rookie make your team, let alone 4, but they have all earned it, especially Jaleel McLaughlin. That is the feel-good story of the summer in Broncos country, and I could not be more happy for the young man to make the Broncos squad.
There are some other interesting distinctions about this year's squad that I want to go over here in a second, but we don't want to keep Naj waiting. Naj is a legendary mythical figure that we're going to be seeing in just a couple of months' time, and we can't wait, bro. He says, hey, brothers, really tired of the continued national Russ bashing, with the exception of Colin Cowherd and Chris Broussard. It's all negative all the time. Looking forward to him hoisting the Lombardi in 5 months. Go Broncos. Man, wouldn't that be wild? Talk about it was pretty cool. You know, when you think about, Zach, some of the most unique, triumphant world championship stories of all time. I mean, every fan base whose team it wins it all thinks theirs is like especially a unique triumph. But from like an objective national perspective, Elway getting his first and doing it like the hard way in 97, having to win as a wild card team and then literally knocking off the defending world champs and a multi-touchdown favored Green Bay Packers in the Super Bowl. That was pretty cool. Another triumphant moment, Zach, was probably not Bronco related per se, but like John Gruden getting traded by the Raiders to the Bucks, and then not only in his first year with the Bucks winning the Super Bowl, but beating the Raiders in the Super Bowl. That was a very uniquely triumphant moment. Peyton Manning getting his ring after the Colts cut him. It took 4 years, but he still got his ring. And then Tom Brady, probably last thing in recent history, getting a ring the very first year after he left New England, kind of answering the question, chicken egg, what was more important to the New England dynasties, Belichick or Brady? I think we probably have our answer. So if Russell Wilson, what I'm getting at in this long-winded way, were to somehow win a Super Bowl in year 1 with Sean Payton, OMG, like it would be one of those massive, massive triumph. And you could probably throw in the 09 Saints victory too, because they'd never won one. And, 4 years removed from Katrina.
Listen, if I'm Russell Wilson and I'm hoisting that trophy in February, the first thing I'm doing is looking in the camera and just saying very nonchalant, hi haters, because he's dealt with so much criticism, so much hate, and a lot of it's been personal about his appearance or his personality or about his family. It's gotten to the point of ridiculous, and that point was reached last year. It's not even been recently. It was soon after he was acquired by Denver. But Naj, I've tuned out so much of the negative because, like you said, it's been all the time. That's been the normal, and it used to bother me, it used to piss me off, but I'm going to let the season play out. I'm confident in Russ. You're confident. Chad's confident. We're all confident, and he is going to get the last laugh, I think, at those haters.
By the way, Mr. Producer, in the house, Scott Kennedy. Sometimes we're running a little late, right, for our show. Scott, he's used to those rhythms just like you guys probably are, our great audience and community. So he's probably going like, yo, I'm on time. What's going on here, guys? You guys are like already 13 minutes into your stream. But it's not the same without Scott in the control room for us. So Naj, bro, let him hate. Let them hate. When the time comes, they're going to have to eat their crow, even if it takes some sweet and sour, some sriracha, whatever their condiment of choice is. Eclipse wearing, still rocking a vintage Huddle Up podcast hat in his profile pic. I love it. Good to see you, bro. Troy, I hope you're doing well, my friend. He says, happy Thursday, Priest and Broncos family. Most looking forward to seeing Patrick Surtain on defense and Greg Dulcich on offense. Peace and love from Philly. Denver Broncos for life. Hashtag MHHUN. Love hearing it. Love hearing from you, Troy. It's going to be interesting to see how well Patrick Surtain kind of defends his, I wouldn't be too far to say his crown, but like defends his accolades, being a first team all pro shutdown corner. How well do you defend as a premise that perception and that reputation that he now has in his third year? And then Dulcich, man, I mean, they must really have some plans for Dulcich if Okwuegbunam was so easily expendable.
There's pressure on them on both sides. For Dulcich, he's not the clear-cut number one guy. I think that's Adam Troutman or a rotating basis at tight end. So Dulcich has to prove that he belongs, that he should be the tight end one. For PS2, like you said, he has to uphold the title of being the Broncos' foundational player, probably the best overall player on the squad. But we're talking about matchups. Week 1 is coming up very soon. I am really stoked to see PS2 on Devontae Adams against, the Raiders' top receiver, who kind of gave PS2 some struggles last season. I want to see if he can get better against him. I want to see how they affect Jimmy G and that the quarterback and that offense there. So it's going to be a fun matchup. I think the Broncos will come out on top, though.
And let's not forget, Devontae Adams talked some trizash, dude. He ain't ready yet. He ain't ready yet. Yeah, he's got some potential. He ain't ready yet. So that's going to be a showdown, bro. Mike, what's going on? Mike Edel in the house with a very, very, very generous super chat. Really appreciate you, big dog. Saying, good evening, gentlemen. On Albert O, here's my thoughts and just thoughts. How many years has it taken him to show up for one game against second and lower teams, stringers? He got whipped a couple times in the Rams game. Was he schemed open? Look, I'll put on the Steelman glasses for the argument on behalf of, the wisdom of the Broncos making this move. And, I was talking to one of my mentors in an MHH emeritus, Doc Bear, today. And he's like, look, you're wrong about Alberto. They can't count on him. I mean, the fact that he flashed one time in a preseason game, the last one at that, like, they just, with all the other ducks they have and the horses waiting in the wings at tight end, they just couldn't count on Alberto, that being more than what it was as a flash in the pan. And I understand that argument. I do. In a normal situation, Zach, if the Broncos aren't losing Tim Patrick, if they're not losing KJ Hamler, I know it's different positions, but we are talking about ball production, receiving talent, impact ability on offense. If they hadn't lost those guys, if they didn't lose Jalen Virgil, if Jerry Jeudy didn't get that hamstring injury last week, I probably would not be singing exactly the same tune. I might be in the same key, but it wouldn't be perhaps as sharp, let's say. So that's the Steelman argument. What say you, Zach?
Well, I mean, even if he was schemed open, that kind of is the answer to the question, because look at Alberto's coaching staffs. The first couple years or 3 years he was in the NFL, 2020, 2021, he had crap. 2022 had Nathaniel Hackett. And this year he finally has a competent offensive coordinator, coaching staff that can find ways to utilize his talent. That's the whole beauty of having an elite coach, is maximize a player's strengths and hide their weaknesses. But for Alberto, his main weakness was blocking. And it looked like Alberto's blocking was improving on a weekly basis, a practice-by-practice basis. He was getting better. I understand why they moved on. I understand why Broncos fans took a too little, too late approach to Alberto. He was always hyped up and never really delivered, but I was starting to see him turn that corner. And you can't take away what he did in that preseason game. He can only go up against who's in front of him. He doesn't control that, but he controls his performances. He controls his tenacity. He controls his want to. And those were all on display against the Rams.
Well said. KB, what's going on, big dog? By the way, are we going to see you in October on the 22nd? I hope so, dude. It'd be fun to catch up. He says, what's the chance Denver's O-line holds up and the chance Russ is running for his life this season? I have no idea. So in other words, like, what do you expect to see here? And it's hard to perfectly predict anything in the NFL, but in this case, it's a little bit more complex, Zach, because Russ has been one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the NFL over the last 5 years in 2 different NFL destinations for a reason. And I don't say that to throw shade on him, but as Broncos fans saw last year, there's times where he kind of sees ghosts a little bit. He breaks the pocket early. He's just not quite patient enough, and it often leads to bad news for him. I think a lot of that stuff, Zach, is going to be coached out by Peyton and company this year. So that side of things, I think, will be minimized, even though we saw some flashes of it, Zach, in the Arizona preseason game. Meanwhile, I do think this offensive line, you give them a couple of games, you give them 1 or 2 full games of them playing 60 snaps per game with each other out there, real live bullets, first team opponents, etc. And I think that this offensive line is going to come together and probably be the best O-line unit that the Broncos have had, let alone Russ, in many, many moons. But as you say, KB, no idea. It's hard to say with perfect accuracy what we can expect. But the Broncos did invest on this subject. They did invest in more ways than one for a reason, Zach.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, you laid out perfectly. We can't predict the future, and we'll have to see how it shakes out. The Broncos do look better on paper as an offensive line, but then again, McGlinchey was hurt, and Ben Powers did not look good the first couple weeks of preseason. So it's still a work in progress. And like we've been talking about, that line can't really come together until all five are playing consistent snaps. So they might be shaky the first couple weeks, but I think by midseason, if they all stay healthy, knock wood, they should be an upper echelon, at least top half of the league, top 16 offensive line. I know for damn sure, though, they will not allow 63 sacks, an NFL high, like they did last season.
We can only hope. The GLP, the swashbuckler himself, Gary Palmer, in the house with a generous super chat. Thank you, brother. He says, hey, guys, sorry about TJ. I was looking forward to seeing him. You will see him next week. Trust. He says, I'm feeling pretty good about this season. Looking forward to seeing what it looks like. Go Broncos and buck 'em. If you're just joining us and you saw some of the social media posts earlier, TJ Ward had a family emergency that we learned of about 20 minutes before our go live that prevented him from being on tonight's show as planned. But he wants to come on next week. So we're going to make it happen next week. So sorry about that, guys, outside of our control, but we are going to fix it. Trust. Okay. Also, we've got 727 Mil in the house. What's up, dude? So good to see you. He says, do y'all think we bring back KJ Hamler when he gets cleared? Meaning from the, I forget the name of it, but the heart pericardia or something.
Yeah, something like that.
And why do all the media, says 727 Mil, talk so down about us, man? Those are two different conversations. So let's have them real quick here. What do you think is going to happen if/when KJ gets cleared?
I have not heard anything about KJ's status. The last thing we deduced was that he should be cleared around week 1, but whether he returned to the Broncos was up in the air. I do believe, though, that the chances of Hamler returning took a massive hit when the Broncos signed Philip Dorsett, the former Raiders and Patriots and Colts receiver, to the practice squad yesterday. The one thing that Dorsett brings to the table is speed, just like KJ Hamler. So that may have been an indication that they moved on from KJ and they wish him well, but he's not coming back to Denver.
Yeah, I'll be surprised. I'll be honest with you. At this point, I will be. Even the Broncos need at wide receiver notwithstanding, I'll be surprised if he does get cleared. I'll be surprised if they bring him back. I think that ship sailed, unfortunately. Why are the media talking so down on the Broncos? Well, first of all, the Broncos, outside of the Tebow mania whirlwind of 2011 and that very brief 4-year reprieve with Peyton Manning, the Broncos have always struggled to get any kind of positive anything from the national perspective. Like, it's like pulling teeth, usually getting them to say anything. Then you add to that, Zach, the Denver Broncos becoming the first NFL team ever to win the Super Bowl and then miss the playoffs in the 5 consecutive seasons following. Add to that now 2 more. We're 7 seasons into this. They made themselves just, unfortunately, an easy target. Right. And then with all the Russ and Hackett stuff last year, like, it just reached a critical mass. And the only way, 727 Mil, the only way to silence these fools is to win. Period. End of story. And it doesn't have to be pretty, but you got to just turn the ship around, get back to winning right now. Not next year, not like we were hearing, Zach, from Mike Tannenbaum, that this is about, that for Sean Payton, as far as the Walton Penners are concerned, 2023 for Sean Payton is about showing accountability to everybody and holding people. No. Dude, 2023 is about winning some freaking ball games, period, end of story.
Well said. Yeah, it's low-hanging fruit is the reason why the Broncos get so much trash talk. They get talked down on. They're hated, this and that. They're like the 4th grader that's getting picked on by the 9th grade bully. That's been the case since 2016, pretty much, or 2017 at the absolute latest. It's easy to hate on teams that aren't winning. It's why teams like Kansas City, for example, get such little hate, because they win consistently. The fortunate thing, I believe, is that under Sean Payton, beginning this year, the Broncos will be that 9th grade bully and start to pick on the 4th graders around them. The tide is going to turn under Sean Payton.
I think Scott makes a good point in our control room here. He says one of the reasons certain people in the Nationals, Zach, are so pissed is because they were so embarrassed after picking the Broncos and trusting in Russ last year. And it's one thing to like pick the Broncos to do well, make the playoffs, let's say, and they just can't quite pull it off. They come close, they're in the conversation, but cookie doesn't crumble their way. That's a far cry from becoming a doormat and a national lampoon. So there probably is something to that for certain NFL talking heads that feel scorned, so to speak. But overall, in a general sense, again, the Broncos have kind of, unfortunately, they've done it to themselves. A, B, it's always been hard to get any positive press in the national media for what has been perceived for a long, long time as a small market team.
Right.
And then one last thing, when you to kind of add context to the done it themselves aspect of this, Zach, I don't just mean by losing the games, by making the wrong head coach hires, picking the wrong quarterbacks, all that, but like storylines that unfortunately have unfolded, like Emmanuel Sanders in the world of suck, little things like that only add degrees on, it's like, it's one thing to be knocked to the ground and someone kicks you while you're down. It's one thing to be knocked to the ground and then you're like kneeing yourself in the most sensitive parts while you're down. It's like, that's kind of what's happened.
Well, great times we've been through, right? Since SB50, world of suck and coach after coach and criticism after criticism. It's one thing to point that the Broncos have not been good, because they haven't been since Peyton Manning walked away. It's another to become so delusional and wrapped up in your own hate that you say things that just are far from the basis of reality. I think I'll say his name, Greg Rosenthal of NFL Media. He said yesterday, aside from the secondary, I can't find an above average positional group on this Broncos team. The running backs, when healthy, are above average. The receivers, when healthy, are above average. The linebackers, when healthy, are above average. And I would say the quarterbacks, including Jarrett Stidham and Ben DiNucci, are above average. It's delusional takes like that ruin all credibility the national media has. But that is going to continue, the delusion, the Broncos derangement syndrome, the BDS, until, like you said, they start winning freaking football games, period.
The Duchess jumping in. Love you, Michaela. Hope you're doing well. So nice to see you tonight. She says, I am still puzzled about some of the moves. Alberto, I shall miss you. And best of luck with your new team, which is the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah, some of the moves were, again, you're like, But as I said on Twitter, I haven't said this tonight, but like relative to the whole Alberto thing, was I disappointed and somewhat surprised? Yes. But I haven't been in those meeting rooms. I haven't seen every single rep in practice and all that stuff. I haven't heard about what's going on behind closed doors. We don't have the entire picture. What we saw, what we've seen from Alberto is what we've been allowed to see, plus the preseason games. And relative to the Denver Broncos, like, until proven otherwise, still, Zach, as disappointed as I was by the Alberto thing, and in Sean, I trust. In Peyton, I trust until I'm given a reason to move off that overall kind of posture.
Yeah, I mean, if it was up to me, I would have kept Alberto. I would have put Nate Atkins on the practice squad because you have, able-bodied blocking tight ends already. But I do respect Sean Payton for sticking to his convictions and his football values. Blocking is non-negotiable for a tight end, just like tackling was under Vic Fangio. And Alberto wasn't cutting the mustard as a blocker. So Sean Payton felt like there was a better player that can help the Broncos, help the offense, and help the team win more games. And I do respect that more so than someone like Hackett, who is everyone's friend. Alberto would have been on the roster, probably a starter, if Nathaniel Hackett was still the Broncos coach.
Well said. Well said. Michaela, love you. We got Taylor jumping in. Great to see you tonight, my friend. Thank you for the support. It means the world to us, helping us keep these lights on. He says, I'm concerned with the lack of wide receivers that made the 53 roster and on the Alberto trade. What are your thoughts on those topics? Go Broncos, MHH for life. So we've talked quite a lot about Alberto. In case you guys have missed it, the Broncos are currently only carrying 4 wide receivers on the active roster, one of which is basically an unofficial short-term IR in Jerry Jeudy. Jerry avoided the technical designation of being put on short-term IR. So like if he wakes up tomorrow and he's 100%, he's good. He doesn't have to miss any games. He's not mandated by the league, etc. But everything we've heard, it's really feeling like he's going to miss the first game at least. So what does that mean? Practically speaking, you have 3 wide receivers on the active roster to boot. Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims Jr., a rookie, Brandon Johnson, a relatively untested young vet. However, 2 wide receivers that are new faces, Zach, were signed to the practice squad. We mentioned it at the top of the show. Philip Dorsett, former first-round pick, hasn't ever lived up to his draft pedigree, but there is that. And he had a cup of coffee or two with Russ in Seattle. And David Sills, who's a big 6'3" kind of possession receiver that the Broncos like as depth and as someone who could maybe contribute on special teams. When you factor in, Zach, the new practice squad rules, by new I mean since about the pandemic, where they expanded it from 10-man practice squad to 16-man, and then also allowed for these elevations where you can take a player on the practice squad and elevate him to your game day roster twice in the season without having to expose him to the waiver wire when you put him back on the practice squad following the game. So that being the case, the Broncos, especially in this first quarter of the season, Zach, I expect to fully exploit the elevation rule and bringing up at least Philip Dorsett from the PS to kind of bridge the gap till everyone gets healthy. And then also, hello, Greg Dulcich.
Good shot with Bridge the Gap there. In terms of Judy, today, actually, Mike Kliss reported that Judy was doing some side work during practice. So I think his return is near, and it's sooner and not later. He'll be out week 1 more than likely, but week 2 against the Commanders, I got that wrong. I got called out for it last podcast. I think he could come back for that game.
What do you mean you got that wrong?
I said it was the Dolphins. In week, some
charger to the game.
Yeah, people take umbrage with the stupidest things. Anyway, you're right. When they're going to exploit the practice squad rules and kind of call up receivers depending on the opponent, depending on the game plan, depending on the method of attack. You mentioned Sills and Dorsett. Sills, by the way, watching some highlights, he gives me some Tim Patrick vibes. Big body, 6'3", good ball control, ball skills when it's in the air, can high point. So they have him. We mentioned Philip Dorsett, the speedster. They brought back Lil Jordan Humphrey on the practice squad and also Michael Bandy. So you pretty much de facto have 8 receivers that you could play with on any given week. Will they make one more move? That remains to be seen. But the inactivity there would lead me to believe that Judy's injury is not serious. And if he misses week 1, he'll be back shortly thereafter.
Well said, Taylor. I hope that covers it for you, my dog. Thank you for the support once again, bro. We got George on Facebook jumping in. Awesome to see you tonight, buddy. Great pod tonight, he says. Thanks to all of the MHH crew for keeping us informed on the team. Denver Broncos for life. MHH for life. Appreciate you, brother. Mike, the Ronk in the house, too. I want to grab this. He says, Alberto needed a fresh start in the league with the Eagles. Wishing him nothing but the best. Yeah, we definitely wish him nothing but the best, right? We want, you hope for the best. Just like, you hoped that Drew Lock would have some success. You hope that Noah Fant would have, you want to see guys that you come to really love and support and all that, have some success. The Broncos would hate to see Alberto go off and ball out in Philadelphia. It would make their decision on a no-name undrafted rookie, Nate Adkins, erring on the side of what? Like, what upside are you really like? That's the other component to the Alberto thing, Zach, that I'm scratching my head on. Because you brought up one aspect of it earlier, which is they could have just kept Alberto on the roster and Adkins on the practice squad. Yeah. No one was going to claim him. Went undrafted for a reason. And he didn't have any big splash plays in the preseason. No one would have claimed Nate Adkins, but that's not what they did. They're holding on to him for a reason. I mean, Sean Payton's talked a little bit about it, and I could share with you guys some of what he said, but it's not really sexy. It's a tight end position, which often isn't sexy, but hashtag in Payton I trust.
Exactly. That's how I feel. Again, if it was up to me, up to you, Chad, we would have kept Alberto on the 53 and let him be a big body possession red zone weapon for us. But Sean Payton had other ideas. I happen to believe that Albert is going to thrive in Philadelphia with that the Nick Sirianni offense, Jalen Hurts at quarterback, him being Dallas Goedert's like right-hand man flanking him. He's going to do big things there. I wish him the best, except when they play Denver, but could prove to be a mistake. Hopefully Nate Atkins proves that he was worthy of the 53.
See this, I love this from Wolfie Melot. Hashtag work lurking. Love you guys. Have a great night. Enjoy hearing you as I work, and I'm getting as I work, I'm getting so excited for game day. Awesome. This is something like when I bring on new writers and I'm trying to train them up on how to kind of approach this profession. One of the things I try to help people understand is a lot of the time, not all of the time, many of you right now within the sound of our voice are sitting at home comfortably doing something, whatever. But often we get people's attention, whether it's a written article, Zach, a podcast, a video clip, a tweet, whatever. We get their attention when they're at work and they take that 5-minute break to go to the restroom, and they'll scroll through their phone while they're, doing what they got to do. Or in this case, like Woofy, where he's probably doing some busy work, but he's got us in his ear, and trying to help new people in this business understand that that's often the lay of the land. And so you got to cater to those people. You got to cater to that scenario. And to me, I just love hearing how people work us, whichever way you do work us into your routine. We love hearing about it because it just, it's why we do this. So thank you, Woofy, for listening while you're punching the clock, big dog.
Yeah, appreciate you, Woofy. And no matter how you consume our product, whether it's audio only or video or after the fact live, whatever, we're very grateful for that and appreciate you hopping in today.
The Duchess with another super wants to know, what are the super chat rankings? Do we have it updated, Scott? Today was kind of a weird day. Maybe try to, what if we say we'll have an update by the end of the show, not counting today, of course. So like as of end of August 30th, something like that. We'll see if we can update it officially by the end of the show. Scott will work on that. Trust. Love you, Michaela. Okay. One other thing here I want to grab. We're at 37 minutes, guys. We're doing okay on time, but if there is any burning topics, get it in the chat. We'll do our best to get them. From Nick Hale, what's up, bro? He says, my pre-podcast legends, how are we feeling about the O-line holding up against the Raiders? Side note, how are you feeling about Cushenberry at center after the preseason? Much love. MHH for life. Rock and roll. Hashtag BTG. Love it. Thank you, buddy. So first things first, let's kind of graph these two things together. How are you feeling, Zach, about the O-line holding up against a Raiders front seven, which at first glance, Zach, might not be the most terrifying, but when you realize that much like Khalil Mack when he was a Raider, Max Crosby has basically built a Pro Bowl resume off of his, Bronco quarterback predations. So how does the O-line hold up? How are you feeling about Cush within that tapestry?
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, the only real fear factor I have is Max Crosby, who, like Josh Jacobs of the Raiders, seems to wreck the Broncos every time they play. Hopefully they have a plan for him. McGlinchey can hold up. But Cushenberry, we haven't heard much about him in preseason. I think that's a good thing. You don't want to hear your center's name called that much. And by all accounts in preseason training camp, he's taken that step forward under the tutelage of Peyton and Zach Strief. So we won't know until we know. It's tough to predict on paper how a game is going to go. They can hold the Raiders to no sacks. They can allow 7 sacks. Hopefully that won't happen, but I think they're going to be better than they were in their 2 meetings last year.
I feel good about it. With regard to Cush, so far, as you guys heard me say during the long NFL offseason and the beginning of training camp, I'm hashtag trusting Peyton on this one too. Like he said right out of the gates, we view him as our starter, and everything they've done since then has backed that up. And then I thought he looked improved modestly. All right. Not like massive, oh my goodness, look at this new beast named Lloyd Cushenberry. He looked modestly improved, looked like he was more equipped to deal with power and anchoring and all that. Still a little slow kicking out on screens and stuff like that. But again, I'm maintaining that posture of in Sean I trust, and that includes Zach Strief.
Yeah, I mean, I have not been the biggest Cushenberry fan. I thought the Broncos should have signed a veteran replacement like a Ben Jones. But to his credit so far, looks like he's realizing that draft pedigree and transforming into a stronger player that can hold the point and hold the pivot on the offensive line. So we'll see come September 10th. But by all accounts, so far so good for Kush.
I want to get this one as well from Albert. He says, do you know how many undrafted free agents are on the 53 and practice squad in total? I do. I researched it this afternoon. So you got 4, Zach, on the active roster. On the practice squad, the Broncos have, pulling it up here, first look at the Broncos practice squad. So you've got, let's see, scrolling. Nope. Nope. Jacobs. You got DeMontre Jacobs. You've got PJ Mustafa. You've got, I don't remember, was Jordan Jackson an undrafted rookie, Zach? Yes.
I don't think so.
Yes,
I think
he is actually.
Was he?
Sorry, he is. Marcus Haynes. And then Art Green. Devin Key, not a undrafted rookie. So, yeah, the Broncos are, Zach, erring on the side of youth this year. That is for sure. And another couple interesting tidbits about the Broncos roster. Get this. The active roster features initial active roster because, those bottom, Zach, 3 to 5 spots will fluctuate throughout the season, especially based on, relative injuries and this and that. But the initial active roster features a whopping 20 players who were not with the club in any capacity last year, which includes, of course, all 5 2023 draft picks. Also, the average age of the Broncos active roster is 26.1 years old, and that includes, Zach, 26 players who are either 25 years old or younger. So what are the implications of that?
I don't want to pick nits, but I pulled up Jackson's wiki. It says he entered the NFL in 2022 as a 6th rounder of the Saints. So
then that's that.
Could be wrong, but yeah, I don't think he's a first-year player. It says to me again that they found so much young talent that they want to hold on to that it's a credit to the Broncos scouting department. And George Paton talked about that in his post-53 press conference. He thanked the regional scouts. He thanked the head scouts, AJ Durso and company, for all the work they've put in. And when you can identify undrafted players or young players that have untapped potential, how about Lucas Kroll being one of them? That's a tight end the Broncos signed to the practice squad yesterday, one of the few external players they added. He was with the Saints this preseason. He led all NFL tight ends in preseason catches and yards. He's 6'6", 260. That dude is a big-bodied boy who can make things happen as a pass catcher. When you can identify those gems and uncover them and they can make your team, it's a credit to me, to the scouting department.
So this is also an encouraging aspect of, we talk about even when Okwuegbunam was still on the roster, he and Dulcich, especially Dulcich, basically being big wide receivers. Mr. Producer pulling up some advanced stats. Dulcich lined up at wide receiver twice as many times as he did inline tight end last year. So obviously he's going to play some wide receiver. 201 of those snaps were in the slot, 116 snaps specifically in line as a tight end. So there you have it. Todd says, I got to say, I'm concerned with the number of receivers going into the game. Will he be used, Dulcich, as a receiver? I think the answer to that, that was a previous coaching regime. That's the only kind of asterisk here. But Sean Payton, he recognizes game. And as the guy that discovered and kind of birthed the Jimmy Graham phenomenon, I think you can expect that trend with Dulcich lining up twice as often as a receiver than an inline tight end to continue.
And I saw some Saints fans talking on Twitter about Kroll, the tight end I just mentioned, and they said, you brought up Jimmy Graham. If it wasn't for Graham's resurgence and him making the 53, Kroll probably would have cracked the Saints active roster. So to get those type of players not only on your team, but on your practice squad when they're not even counting against your 53 is a major victory for the vision that Sean Payton and George Paton have together, the collective vision.
Scott going off the chain with his stars on Facebook, like big boy stars, bro. Thank you so much. Really, really means a lot to us. I hope you know that. He He says, always listening to you guys from Queen Creek, Arizona, which is the Phoenix area. Very cool. We love hearing that. Another hashtag state of being member of our community. You guys are awesome. No, Scott, you're awesome, big dog. Thank you very, very much.
A lot of Broncos fans and MHH listeners in the Arizona Phoenix area. So you're another one, and you're quickly becoming a 10-poll member of the community, Scott. Appreciate you so much.
Mike's got a prediction, the Ronk, all right, for week 1. Broncos 35, Raiders 17. He says, that's my score prediction. I'm calling my shot right here, right now. Go Broncos. How rad would it be, Zach, if the Broncos not only defeat the Raiders, snapping the ignominious 6-game losing streak, finally getting a win in on Josh McDaniels, but basically blowing them out, doubling the score. That would be a great way to start the season.
And scoring more than 17 points on offense, or 16, whatever it was in the Hackett era when they couldn't top that mark very rarely. I would love it, Michael. I would really, really enjoy that because they haven't beaten the Raiders in so long. But I don't care if it's 18-17 Broncos final score. I don't care if it's 9-8. I don't care if it's 3-2. As long as the Broncos come away with that dub on the 10th, I'm happy.
Well said. Well said. Okay, listen, real quick, Michaela, we're going to give you the update here in just a moment. So hang tight with us. Like I said, before tonight is in the books, we will do an update on Super Chat. So we're at 46 minutes. We have a little bit of time left. So I'm going to grab Ashish here. Hey guys, before my concern was O-line. Now my new concern is wide receiver depth. I mean, who is the reliable wideout with Judy out? Every play, the Broncos might double team Cortland, or opponents might double team Cortland Sutton, and Marvin Mims is a rookie. I don't think we win many games if Judy is out. What do you guys think? It's so interesting, Zach, how if you rewind to this time last year, nobody was hinging the outcome and destiny of this team on whether or not Jerry Jeudy was healthy. Think about that. Mm-hmm. Nobody. Not a single person. Were it not for a whirlwind final 6 games of last season, no one would be doing it right now. So I only bring this up, Ashish, to put into context here. All right. It takes a village, my dog. And as much as the Broncos could really use Jerry Jeudy, I mean, Cortland Sutton's not exactly chopped liver. And I think Marvin Mims, I'm going to echo something I heard Carl Dummler say the other night on Building the Broncos. I think Marvin Mims is going to end up having a much bigger impact as a rookie than we expected at first glance, and that most rookies make. In year 1, wide receiver, there are exceptions like Justin Jefferson a few years back. There are exceptions, but receiver, Zach, is usually one of those positions where when guys pop, it's usually year 2 or 3. And when we define pop, I'm not necessarily saying here, Zach, that Mims is going to be a 1,500-yard receiver. All right, that's not what I'm saying, but he's going to give you starter production, and you're going to be like, whoa, we weren't expecting that because we're used to our second-round picks basically doing nothing in year 1. Nick Benito.
Number one, I don't think that Jerry Jeudy will be out for long, like we talked about earlier. I think a week 2 return for him is a possibility, so they won't be without Jeudy for much longer. Number 2, if, like you talked about, touched on, if you leave Marvin Mims in single coverage, rookie or not, you're going to have a bad time. It's not just his speed that he brings to the table. It's his ball tracking ability when the ball's in the air. We saw that in the preseason for sure. And number 3, a lot of Broncos fans forget this is going to be a very run-heavy offense under Sean Payton. That's why they have 3 really good running backs, 2 of which are big bruisers. But beyond that, when you do throw the ball, even without Jerry Jeudy, you still have Sutton, you still have Mims, you have Brandon Johnson, you have Greg Dulcich, you have Javonte Williams who can catch passes, you have Samaje Perine who can catch passes, and you have Jaleel McLaughlin who can catch passes. I happen to think with Sean Payton's acumen, he can find a way to weather the Jeudy storm temporarily.
Pearl Heater, as a caregiver for my husband with Alzheimer's, you all make my day. Wow. Very, very kind of you to say. And I got to tell you something that it's very sweet to hear how much love and care you do give your husband, and people who that draw the lot in life that have to care for, whether it's a spouse that has Alzheimer's, if it's a parent, if it's a grandparent, and you're the primary point of attack person in charge of caring for that person, it can really be a agonizing, heart-wrenching, heartbreaking, never-ending kind of thing. Occasionally punctuated with just massive joy. It's just such a devastating disease. So Pearl, I'm so sorry to hear about that with your husband, but he's very lucky to have you,
Yeah.
no doubt about it. And thank you. So are we, by the way. Thank you, Pearl.
It's a horrible, horrible, horrible disease, and I'm sure it's not been easy, Pearl. But all I can really say is God bless you for what you do. You are an angel among us for taking care of your husband, and you make our day as well by telling us that. Thank you.
Thoughts and prayers for you, Pearl. Woofy jumping in again, this time via super chat to say, and thank you, Woofy. Sean Payton is wanting to build young and good players who can learn to build and grow with them, so that not every year is a building and, buying draft, hashtag Denver Broncos for life, hashtag MHH. Yeah. I mean, Peyton wants to build young, good players who can learn to build and grow with the team. Yeah. I mean, that's got to be a priority, new scheme, new philosophy, new culture. I mean, first things first is, Zach, yeah, development and all that. Sure. That goes without saying. First things first is rebuilding the culture, period. The expectations, it's been too easy, for example, Zach, over the last 7 years for people walking around Dove Valley, including fans, saying, yeah, our expectations are Super Bowl or bust. And to say it with a straight face, is the actual key on that, the trick. This time, though, Sean Payton, it's not about saying it's Super Bowl or bust, even though that is the goal, right? That is what they're all shooting for. That's why they play the game. They want to win the Super Bowl. That's the goal until they're disqualified or they lose in the playoffs or whatever. That is the ultimate goal. But really, for me, it's a more simplistic mantra here. That is, Sean Payton's got to teach these players, better way to put it, Broncos have to relearn how to win. And it's not just about game day. It's not just about executing critical moments, discipline, presence of mind, poise, performance. All those things obviously play a huge role, but it's just the everyday culture, what we're about, what we truly expect to see happen. And that's where it starts, I think, for this team, is getting everybody back on that page and helping them remember what it means to be a winning football team.
Well said. Yeah. Only thing I can really add is the trade for Russ and the trade for Sean Payton and the big signings of McGlinchey and Zach Allen and the like have taken away from the core principle of the NFL. And that is, the best way to build a football team is not through free agency or signing, is through the draft. That is the way to keep it reloaded. That is the way to build a successful, consistent winner. And the Broncos are beginning to do that under Sean Payton and George Payton, for that matter. He doesn't get nearly as enough credit as he should for his draft acumen. Say what you want about Payton, but he is an elite drafter and he's helped restock the team in certain areas. But yeah, Sean Payton's always felt that way, going back to his New Orleans days of finding young players as draft picks or UDFAs and building them up and having players constantly in the team pipeline. That's what we're seeing now that we haven't seen since, God, Gary Kubiak.
Indeed. Iron sharpens iron. Pearl, I hope you're seeing all the love and support you're getting in the chat. The Duchess jumping in with a super to say, Pearl, my mom has Alzheimer's. It's very hard. Bless you. So there you have it, Pearl. You have a lot of people here for you, pulling for you. So there is that. And on the subject of the Duchess, here's your update, by the way, everybody. As you know, every single month, we take the top 10 finishers on Super Chat, and those names go in a hat. We do a live drawing with y'all, and the winner gets a Broncos jersey of their choice. Now, Michaela, she's come away as the winner of these drawings many times, and she's not always the beneficiary of her winnings. She has donated her winnings to others. Like, she's great. Here's where it stands. You, Michaela, are currently tied at number 1. Of course, this doesn't count today, so we shall see. But you are tied with FA at number 1, and you leapfrogged up to get to that position for what it's worth. Troy is at number 3. He also climbed. The Lady D, Deanna Hendry's at number 4. So 2 of the Titanic ladies of MHH in the top 5. Gary leads Palmer, rounding out the top 5. Naj at 6. Jasmine, another lady of MHH, who's climbed to get to number 7. Zeus McPeak, who I saw earlier in the chat, and we got talking. I forgot to mention it. Was great to see you. Stu, hope you're doing well, big dog. The DWI guys, a.k.a. Ethan, crossed the pond, and David McElrath in the top 10. David climbed up into the top 10. And then just a couple of the names outside, Brent P. at 11, Gregory Vendeland at 12, Mike Edel, who will do a little bit of climbing too after tonight. I don't know if it'll be enough to get you into the top 10, but you will climb a little bit. So there you have it, Michaela and everybody else. And we do this, the rankings thing is, it's the best thing we've come up with to give back for the enormous support we get from you guys every single night, and not just our show, but all the shows on MHH. So we love you. We appreciate you, Mike. Hey, dude, thank you. The Ronk, you are a prince. And Zach, unless we have anything else, maybe we dip on out of here.
Yeah, that was a very, very fun episode of the MHH podcast. If you're not doing so, please follow us on Twitter or X or whatever at the MHH pod. You can follow the main account on Twitter, X at Mile High Huddle, Chad at Chad and Jensen, myself at Kelberman NFL, and Scott, our producer, at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some merchandise like we're always rocking each and every show, check out mhhmerch.com. Get your Bucka merch right before the season starts, perfect for week 1. Check it out when you can. And also facebook.com/Mile Huddle Pod. Be sure you're liking that page and following that page. If you're on Instagram, follow us at mile_high_huddle, and make sure you're leaving your football priest a 5-star review for a chance to win some of that merch each and every single month. But as you see ticking below you, or as you hear me say now, subscribe, like, and share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow. And Richmond Broncos fans, just like you.
Amen to that. A shout out to the great Super Chat superstars and supporters from tonight's awesome show, starting with Sam Bam jumping in early, David McElrath, Miguel, Naj, Eclipse, Mike Edel, KB, the GLP 727 Mill, the Duchess, Taylor Christensen, Woofy. Much love and respect on Facebook. Scott going off, Mark going off. We got the Ronk holding it down. Brandon Williams as well, and George Fox. Brandon, I don't remember getting one of your comments. And Gary, by the way, jumping in here as I jump back to the screen to say on a super chat, I lost my wife to Alzheimer's, so you have my love. So I'm sorry to hear that, Gary. I knew from talking with you in person at the meet and greet last year, if I recall right, was that the moment? Either way, I was aware that you lost her. I didn't know it was to that. So that's, I'm sorry to hear that. But Pearl, you're getting the love, you're getting the support from the community, and I hope you see that. So everyone's here for you. Positive vibes, love, prayers up to you and your family and your husband. So, Zach, without further ado, I think that covers it. And by the way, again, in case you missed it, TJ Ward last minute had to cancel, family emergency. I don't think it was like the family thing came up that he had to take care of. He wants to reschedule. He's coming back next week. So we'll be announcing details on that coming out of the Labor Day weekend. So stay tuned.
We'll see you Sunday, guys. Have a great weekend. We'll take care. And as always, go Broncos.